Life has a funny way of changing when you least expect it. For me, it happened on a crisp September morning in Boston, all because my golden retriever Charlie decided to thoroughly investigate another dog's tail. I'm Thomas Tom Mitchell, 35, architect by day and struggling amateur chef by night. Little did I know that Charlie's social butterfly tendencies would lead me to the love of my life. That morning started like any other. I was walking Charlie through Beacon Hill's cobblestone streets, coffee in one hand, leash in the other, when Charlie suddenly stopped, causing me to nearly spill my precious caffeine. The object of his fascination was a beautiful border collie with striking blue eyes, whose owner was equally attention-worthy. "Sorry about that," I called out as Charlie initiated his typical friendly inspection. He thinks every dog is his potential best friend. The man holding the border collie's leash laughed, a warm sound that seemed to brighten the already sunny morning. "Luna's the same way. I'm Daniel, by the way. Daniel Walker. We just moved into 42 Mount Vernon. Tom Mitchell," I replied, trying not to stare too obviously. Daniel was probably in his early 30s, with dark hair that had a slight wave to it and green eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He wore running shorts and a faded Harvard Medical School t-shirt that suggested he was either a doctor or had an excellent taste in thrift store finds. "I'm at number 38. Guess we're neighbors. Oh, you're the architect." Daniel's face lit up with recognition. "Mrs. Henderson from number 40 told me about you. Apparently, you're the one to talk to about the weird creaking sound in old Beacon Hill houses." I couldn't help but smile. Mrs. Henderson, our elderly neighbor, had appointed herself the unofficial welcome wagon and neighborhood gossip central. "The houses here are from the 1800s. They're bound to have personality quirks. But I'd be happy to take a look if you're worried. I might take you up on that," he said, then checked his watch. "Sorry, I should get going. Hospital rounds wait for no man. But maybe we'll see you around? Luna could use a friend in the neighborhood. Charlie would love that," I said, perhaps too quickly. "We usually walk around this time every morning." As Daniel and Luna walked away, Charlie looked at me with what I swore was a smug expression. "Don't give me that look," I muttered. Just because he's gorgeous doesn't mean anything. But over the next few weeks, our morning walks became increasingly synchronized. We'd meet at the corner, let the dogs play while we talked, and gradually I learned more about Daniel. He was a pediatric surgeon, had moved from Chicago for a position at Massachusetts General Hospital, and had rescued Luna from a shelter 3 years ago. He loved Thai food but couldn't cook to save his life, preferred autumn to any other season, and had a habit of running his hand through his hair when he was thinking deeply about something. In turn, I found myself sharing more than I usually did with new acquaintances. I told him about growing up in suburban Boston with parents who struggled to accept my sexuality, about my passion for sustainable architecture, and about how Charlie had helped me through my breakup with my ex 2 years ago. One particularly chilly morning, about a month after we'd first met, Daniel showed up looking exhausted after a night shift. "You should be sleeping," I said, concerned. "Probably," he admitted, stifling a yawn. "But I didn't want to miss our walk. It's become the best part of my day." The words hung in the air between us, loaded with possibility. Before I could respond, Luna tangled her leash with Charlie's, causing us both to stumble forward. Daniel's hand caught my arm to steady me, and suddenly we were standing very close, his fingers warm through my jacket sleeve. "Tom," he said softly, still not letting go. "Would you like to have dinner with me, without the dogs?" My heart did a complicated gymnastics routine. "Like a date?" His smile was both nervous and hopeful. "Exactly like a date, unless I'm completely misreading things." "You're not," I assured him quickly. "I'd love to have dinner with you. Tomorrow night? I know this great little Italian place in the North End. It's a date." That evening, I spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to decide what to wear, while Charlie watched from my bed with what appeared to be amused judgment. "You try maintaining your dignity while crushing on your neighbor," I told him. He just wagged his tail. The Italian restaurant, as it turned out, was a tiny family-owned place tucked away on a side street with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. Daniel was already waiting when I arrived, looking devastating in a navy blue button-down shirt. I was worried you might not come, he admitted, as we sat down. Why wouldn't I? He shrugged, fidgeting with his napkin. Dating neighbors can be complicated. If it goes wrong, is that your experience talking? Actually, yes. He gave a self-deprecating smile. My last relationship was with my neighbor in Chicago. When it ended badly, even taking Luna out became awkward. Had to change our whole walking route. So what made you risk it with me? He looked at me then, his green eyes serious. Some things are worth the risk. The wine arrived, and with it, our nerves settled. Conversation flowed as easily as it did during our morning walks, but there was an added layer of electricity now, an awareness that this wasn't just two dog owners chatting. Our knees brushed under the table, sending sparks through my entire body. Can I ask you something personal? Daniel said as we shared a tiramisu. How long have you been out? Officially? Since college. Unofficially? I think I always knew. My parents, they took some time to adjust. Dad came around faster than Mom. She still sometimes sends me links to dating sites with success stories about gay men who found the right woman. I took a sip of wine. What about you? Came out at med school. My family was surprisingly great about it. My sister's response was, finally, now we can talk about guys together. He laughed, then grew more serious. But dating as a surgeon isn't easy. The hours are brutal, emergencies don't care about dinner plans, and some guys don't understand why I'd choose to stay late at the hospital instead of meeting them for drinks. Good thing I keep architect's hours then, I said, and I understand dedication to a career. Plus, our dogs are already best friends. Seems like fate. His foot found mine under the table. Fate, huh? After dinner, we walked home through the cool autumn night, our hands brushing until Daniel finally took mine. His palm was warm against mine, and I marveled at how natural it felt. At my doorstep, he hesitated. I'd invite you up, but I have early rounds tomorrow. We have all the time in the world, I said, though my body protested the sensible decision. He stepped closer, one hand coming up to cup my face. Can I kiss you goodnight? Instead of answering, I closed the distance between us. His lips were soft, tasting of coffee and tiramisu, and when he deepened the kiss, pulling me closer, I forgot we were standing on a public street. We only broke apart when Charlie barked from inside, apparently aware of my return. Daniel laughed, resting his forehead against mine. Guess someone's jealous? He'll have to get used to sharing me. The next few weeks were a delicious exploration of turning our friendship into something more. Our morning walks became morning kisses, coffee dates, and occasionally, Daniel would come over for breakfast after his night shifts. Charlie and Luna seemed to approve, often curling up together while we cooked or watched movies, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. Daniel's schedule was as demanding as he'd warned, with emergency surgeries sometimes interrupting our plans. One night, after he had to cancel our dinner date for the third time that month, I found myself questioning whether we were moving too fast. I was sitting on my couch, wallowing in doubt with Charlie's head in my lap, when my doorbell rang. It was nearly midnight. Opening the door, I found Daniel still in his scrubs, looking exhausted but determined. I know it's late, he said before I could speak. And I know I've been terrible at this dating thing lately, but I just spent 6 hours in surgery saving a 5-year-old's life, and all I could think about afterward was how much I wanted to see you, how much I wanted to tell you about my day, hear about yours, just be with you. Daniel, I'm not great at relationships, he continued. My job is demanding, my hours are insane, and I sometimes forget to eat unless Luna reminds me it's dinner time. But you make me want to be better. You make me want to try harder, and if you'll let me, I'd like to keep trying. I pulled him inside and into my arms, not caring about his wrinkled scrubs or the faint antiseptic smell that clung to him. You're doing just fine, I whispered against his neck. That night, he stayed over for the first time. We didn't do anything except sleep, his body curled around mine, while our dogs took up most of the bed space. But somehow, it felt more intimate than any passionate encounter could have been. As autumn turned to winter, Daniel's presence in my life grew more constant. His toothbrush appeared in my bathroom, his favorite coffee mug found a permanent spot in my kitchen cabinet, and Luna's bed took up residence next to Charlie's in my living room. We didn't officially discuss moving in together, but gradually his life merged with mine in a way that felt both natural and thrilling. One snowy December morning, I woke to find Daniel sitting at my kitchen counter, frowning at his laptop, while our dogs dozed at his feet. "Everything okay?" I asked, wrapping my arms around him from behind, just reviewing a complicated case. He leaned back against me. 7-year-old with a congenital heart defect. The surgery's risky, but without it. He trailed off, and I tightened my hold on him. "When's the surgery?" "Tomorrow morning." "I should probably head home, get my notes in order. Or," I suggested, "you could stay here, order takeout, and we can go over your notes together." I may not understand all the medical terminology, but I'm told I'm a good listener. He turned in his chair to face me, his eyes soft. "You're amazing, you know that?" That evening, we spread his medical documents across my dining table while containers of Chinese food grew cold. I listened as he explained the procedure, watching him gesture animatedly as he talked about bypass machines and valve replacements. His passion for his work was one of the things I loved most about him, even if I hadn't said those words out loud yet. The surgery was successful, but Daniel was exhausted when he came home the next evening. He collapsed on my couch, and I wordlessly handed him a glass of wine and started massaging his shoulders. "I don't deserve you," he mumbled. "The family of that 7-year-old might disagree." He caught my hand and pulled me around to face him. "Move in with me." I blinked, surprised. "What?" "Or I'll move in here, whatever you prefer. I want to come home to you every day. Not just sometimes. Always." "What about your place?" "The lease is up next month anyway. And let's be honest, I'm here more than there these days." Luna practically thinks this is home already. As if on cue, both dogs lifted their heads, tails wagging hopefully. "Are you sure?" I asked. "It's a big step." He stood up, pulling me close. "Tom, I love you. I love waking up with you, even when our dogs have somehow taken up most of the bed. I love how you leave architecture magazines everywhere, but always remember to buy my favorite coffee. I love that you understand when I have to work late, but also know exactly when to make me stop working. I cut him off with a kiss. When we finally broke apart, I whispered, "I love you too, and yes, move in with me." The process of combining our lives officially wasn't without its challenges. Daniel's furniture mostly went into storage, except for his ridiculously comfortable reading chair that now sat in our bedroom. We had minor disputes about closet space and whose art would hang where, but mostly, it felt right. Our first real test came in February, when Daniel's parents decided to visit. I was nervous about meeting them, despite his assurances that they were accepting of his sexuality. "They're going to love you," he said the morning they were due to arrive. "Just be yourself, the version of myself that doesn't knock over water glasses when I'm nervous." He laughed, kissing me quickly, before heading to the airport to pick them up. Robert and Elizabeth Walker turned out to be warm, down-to-earth people who immediately made me feel at ease. Elizabeth insisted on helping me cook dinner, while Robert entertained Daniel with stories from his latest golf tournament. "You know," Elizabeth said quietly as we chopped vegetables, "I haven't seen Daniel this happy in years. The way he looks at you, it reminds me of how Robert used to look at me when we were young." "Used to," Robert called from the living room. "I still look at you that way, Lizzie." Later that night, after his parents had gone to their hotel, Daniel found me in our bedroom, getting ready for bed. "Thank you," he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "For what?" "For being you. For making this feel like home. For loving me." The following months brought more changes. Daniel was promoted to head of pediatric surgery, which meant even longer hours, but also more predictable schedules. I landed a major sustainable housing project that would keep me busy for the next year. Through it all, our morning walks with Charlie and Luna remained sacred time, a chance to connect before the day pulled us in different directions. Spring arrived in Boston, bringing with it cherry blossoms and a 1-year anniversary of our first meeting. To celebrate, I planned a surprise weekend getaway to a dog-friendly cabin in the Berkshires. Daniel had been working especially hard on a series of complicated surgeries, and I knew we both needed time away from the city. The cabin was nestled in the woods, with a wraparound porch perfect for morning coffee and evening wine. Charlie and Luna were in heaven, racing through the trees and splashing in the nearby stream. Watching them play, Daniel slipped his hand into mine. "Remember when they first met?" he asked, smiling at the memory. "You mean when Charlie tried to seduce Luna with his sophisticated tail-sniffing technique?" Hey, it worked, didn't it? Look at them now. Like their dads, I said, squeezing his hand. That evening, after a hike and a simple dinner I'd cooked, we sat on the porch swing watching the sunset. Daniel was unusually quiet, seemingly lost in thought. Penny for your thoughts, I prompted. He turned to face me, his expression serious. I've been thinking about the future. My heart skipped. Oh, I had this whole speech planned, he said, reaching into his pocket. About how meeting you and Charlie that morning changed my life. About how you've made me a better doctor by teaching me to balance work and life. About how your love makes me stronger, braver, happier. He slid off the swing onto one knee, pulling out a small box. My breath caught, but looking at you now, in this perfect moment with our perfect little family, all I really want to say is, Thomas Mitchell, will you marry me? Through tears I hadn't realized were falling, I managed to say, only if Charlie can be the ring bearer. Is that a yes? His own eyes were glistening. Yes, you ridiculous man, 1,000 times yes. The ring was simple and elegant, a platinum band with a subtle channel of diamonds. As he slipped it on my finger, both dogs came bounding up the porch steps, as if sensing the celebration. I think they approve, Daniel laughed, as Charlie and Luna showered us with wet kisses. Planning a wedding, while balancing our careers, proved interesting. We decided on a fall ceremony in the public garden, where we'd spent so many mornings walking our dogs. Mrs. Henderson insisted on helping with the arrangements, turning our wedding into a neighborhood event. The day itself was perfect. Crisp autumn air, golden leaves, and our closest friends and family gathered to celebrate. Charlie and Luna, wearing matching bow ties, performed their ring-bearer duties admirably, though Charlie did get distracted by a squirrel halfway down the aisle. Daniel's sister Claire gave a touching speech at the reception, telling everyone how she'd known we were perfect for each other the first time she visited and saw our color-coded dog treat containers. My father, who had come so far in his journey of acceptance, surprised everyone, especially my mother, by dancing with Daniel's dad. As we swayed together during our first dance, Daniel whispered, "Happy? More than I ever thought possible," I replied honestly. Though I still can't believe you proposed before I could. I had a whole plan involving Charlie and Luna and romantic notes tied to their collars. He laughed softly. You can still do it. I promise to act surprised. I have a better surprise, I said, pulling back slightly to see his face. Remember that Victorian house on Marlborough Street you loved? The one that needs complete renovation? His eyes widened. The one with the garden. I put in an offer last week. It was accepted this morning. Happy wedding day, Dr. Walker Mitchell. His kiss was answer enough, though it earned us a few whistles from our guests. The house became our next great adventure. I designed the renovation myself, creating a space that perfectly suited our family. We kept the original details where we could, but modernized where necessary. Daniel's only request was a window seat in the library, where he could read medical journals while watching the dogs play in the garden. Now, 5 years after that first morning, when Charlie decided to introduce himself to Luna, I'm sitting in that very window seat, watching my husband throw a ball for our dogs in our garden. We've added to our family a rescue puppy named Max, who both Charlie and Luna have taken under their wing. Daniel catches me watching and waves, his wedding ring catching the sunlight. He's just completed a groundbreaking surgery technique he developed, while I'm working on designing Boston's first fully sustainable hospital wing. Our lives are busy, sometimes chaotic, but always full of love. What are you thinking about? Daniel asks later that night as we get ready for bed, our 3 dogs already claiming their spots. How sometimes the best things in life come from simple moments, I reply. Like taking your dog for a walk. He pulls me close, kissing me softly. Best walk of my life. Outside our window, Boston's lights twinkle against the night sky. Inside, we've created our own world, one where love is measured in morning walks and goodnight kisses, where family includes fur babies, and where home is wherever we're together.